facilitates like these financial crashes. You know how George Soros made most of his money is
Yeah,
by
shorting
shorting
the yeah,
the
shorting the
pound of
currencies
England.
of different. Yeah, I know he
How
was
many
involved in
people,
the he
if
was
he's so
involved in
altruistic,
the
then why did he do that?
yeah, I have mixed views about him. He was also involved in shorting the currency of these Southeast Asian countries in the late
Yeah.
90s. That was another major crisis. But then the British pound, he shorted it and it really screwed over many people. I don't know why he did that. I mean, generally speaking, when it comes to my economic views, they're pretty radical, probably like yours from what I gather. And I'm not going to expand on all of them here because it would take too long. I'm going to head out soon, probably. Maybe 8, 10 minutes left for me. But what I'd say is that I'm generally against financial speculation. You know what I'm saying? And I've
Hmm.
always been against it. Even when I was somewhat perhaps more open to the idea of a market economy, private market as being an efficient means of achieving societal ends. I've always detested the idea itself of financial speculation because I think it's just wasteful labor. It's not even labor, it's just wasteful activity, parasitic activity that benefits shareholders but does nothing to actually help our country in a sense. Those are Eric Stryker's exact words, funny enough. But I think he was right
Hmm.
about that. And in Marxian theory, they have terms like fictitious capital. I think it's a
Hmm.
perfect word to use to actually describe what's going on because they are basically just conjuring money, not just that, but wealth out of thin air while profiting off the activities of others. So I think that's got to go. And I think if a revolution did occur and we seized control of the means of production, the public did, which is what any socialist movement would try to do, that would actually be one of the first social phenomena that would have to go immediately on the way out. So I mean, what do
Hmm.
you think of Wall Street and the entire world? I think it's pretty much a cancer, but
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think it's essentially a cancer. I mean, if you're familiar with fractional reserve banking or anything like
yeah,
that, that's all
fractional.
that is a parasitic practice where they can lend out 10 times more than they actually have. So then they can make 10 times the profit. I mean, if like these financial speculators, all they do is essentially function as parasites on the rest of the country, uh, leech off of our, what we find valuable. And then what they do with that is they buy the media, and then the media tells us what to find valuable. So then they have like this infinite loop of speculation, which
Yeah,
they
no, it's
control.
it's fucked, definitely. It's
Actually,
gotta
did you
go.
see some guy? I forget his name. I think it was Larry Ellison. He like bought a bunch of the media companies in America, with Oracle, right? And now, I think like CBS, NBC, a lot of these companies will be headed by Bari Weiss, and he's going to control TikTok. If you see TikTok lately, guess what happened to TikTok?
What happened?
American government bought it, and the American government said we have to sell it to somebody in America because, um, Xi Jinping's CCP, they're using TikTok to push pro-Palestinian sentiment, basically. It was nothing to do with the pornography that's on the app. It's nothing to do with encouraging drugs or anything like that. It was mainly because of it was stirring up Palestinian sympathies, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And it gets bought by Oracle. And guess who Oracle puts as the moderation team?
Who? Is it some AEL?
Literally, no. They literally employed like 90% Mossad agents to to moderate TikTok. I don't think there's a single Gentile that's part of the TikTok moderation team. It's absolutely insane.
Damn. So the main reason as to why they cracked down on it was because people are using it to push pro-Palestinian sentiment.
Yeah, like you
That's
open up
fucked. Yeah.
TikTok and you see a
Yeah,
video
no,
of like
I
a
know what you
baby
mean.
getting blown up. Like what I was talking about earlier. When you see that shit head on, you start to sympathize with it. If it's like not even there, then you'll never even think
Yeah.
about it.
No, I agree with you. Wait, is Jacob still here? Yo, Jacob.
Yeah,
Maybe
Jacob's still here. He's just
he's
not.
muted.
He's
No, because
just
I had one question for him too before we left. And I was gonna ask this to Rafa while Rafa was here, but before I leave, the fundamental question is, so okay, when it comes to ethics and metaethics, which I think are extremely important, I mean, what do you guys think morality even is, and where does it come from? I feel like that's
You
really
know,
the basic question. It's the first question that humans have to ask. I mean, what is the good, pretty much?
do you know what I think about it? I've been talking about it the whole time. Um, I just think
What
morality
is
comes from self-interest. Um, I don't think morality is something that God gave us or anything. I just think it's something that we evolved to think in order to have cohesive societies that don't stab each other in the back. Um,
but do you think there's a difference between good and bad? And if so, where does that come from? I
well,
feel like
like
most people
earlier,
do probably. Right?
I was talking about, well, there's things that are good for me and bad for me, right? And we can have sympathy for other people. Like we can say, oh, that's bad because it was bad for him more than it was good for the other guy, or the guy, the second guy, um, intentionally like was sadistic and took, pleasure in the other person's pain. Like you can say that about Israel. That's why I guess Israel's considered bad. That's why I guess cheating is considered bad because you know, if you're part of the cheating is that um to one of the parties or two of the parties involved, um part of the enjoyment of it is from the humiliation of the third party, right? It's like bullying. Bullying is bad because they get enjoyment from the suffering of another. It's sadistic. But I don't think you can classify things as good or bad. I think you can say things are sadistic more but I don't think you can say they're necessarily morally wrong because if something's sadistic, if I'm a sadist, then yeah, I'm going to be ultimately then being sadistic is good for me, right? In my head, it's good because that's just the way it is.
So,
Because
so what you're saying is
I don't
that,
think I don't think morality is universal. Is what I'm
what do
saying.
you mean by that? It's not universal. It's kind of confusing to me.
Well, I think
Uh,
that um, if I'm an individual, there are things that I will view as good, and you're different because you have a different brain. Your brain is made up of different atoms, and you're perceiving things through a different like lens, right? So ultimately, you're going to at least have a slightly different version of what is good and bad than what I have, right? Even if it's just like, I think this thing is really bad, and you think that this thing is like only a little bit bad, even if it's like that, then it's not a universal morality, right? And then you have billions and billions of people. So everything that I said today, there's probably somebody that is in my house right now that would say everything that I said today was fucking evil, right? It's just kind of the way it
no, but
is.
okay, but no, it's because see, this is where I think that we run into major problems if you don't establish some form of objective morality. Is that okay? So suppose that that person now has some type of beef or experiences major tensions with you. That affects your
Mhm.
interpersonal relationships. So that's one problem. But then secondly, suppose that you have a third party who comes in and is forced to decide as to whose beliefs are more true, which is where epistemology comes in. Also as to whose beliefs are more right. So what are they going to do? I mean, how do they have any ground on which to stand?
Well, I don't
See,
think
because well,
epistemology and
because
morality are related. I mean, I think they're
I think
related,
they
but
are. I mean, that's also a
I don't think
platonic.
they're intertwined at the hip like a lot of people do.
Oh, well, why is that? Well,
Because I think there are things like noble lies. I think there are, things that you can do that are deceitful that will ultimately benefit. Like this fucking retard Jordan Peterson is like, if I was a heroin addict and my daughter, who's 5 years old, asked me what's heroin like, then I would tell her the truth. And I would say it's the best thing that ever happened to me. No, you wouldn't fucking do that. You wouldn't do that, right? So, yeah,
no, but
I
so
don't
okay,
think,
you have so you disagree with someone else. Okay, but there's 7 billion people on Earth.
Hmm.
Conflicts are constantly occurring, and sometimes they kill people. So you
Yeah.
probably wouldn't want to be killed. Well,
Yeah.
how can you not understand that other people don't want to be killed and then start building more of a morality from there? See, I don't understand how
Um,
selfishness works at all. That's why egoism makes no sense to me. Because it
yeah, I'm
only
not
even
a,
it yeah, so you're not an egoist, but because it supposes that there are aspects of life that matter and ones that don't, but that affects
but
everyone.
why would I not want to be
So
killed if
I
me
mean, I'm
dying would
assuming
lead to, if
I mean,
me
I'm assuming
dying
that
would lead to
I'm
ultimately the
assuming
fruition of a better ideal, then
no, I'm just
why
saying
would I not want to die?
I'm assuming that you wouldn't want to be killed probably right now.
Yes, but if we're
I mean, that's kind of I know it's kind of a weird ass question.
do you understand what I'm saying? Is like, why would I not want to die
Yeah,
if
well, that, or
me
another way of
dying would
putting it
lead to
was,
a a morally superior world, right?
yeah, but so where does morality come from? I mean, what do you think? Because you
Said
definitely
this the
value.
whole fucking time, dude. It
No,
comes
no, no,
from
because you said that you
self-interest.
think it's just evolution, but I don't know. I mean,
Yes.
it doesn't make sense to me though. So you think, but
How does that
so
not make
everyone
sense?
following their own self-interest, you think leads to morality?
Yes, because it everybody is self-interested in a socially cohesive collective.
But what if the self-interest of one person was global annihilation, to kill all people on Earth in a nuclear apocalypse?
Then that, then that's their prerogative. I mean,
No,
I
but
don't
then the
think
entire
that's
system collapses. That's what, no, I'm just saying the point is it's an extreme example, but I think there's something more fundamental that explains it better. I don't think it's
well,
that people are
you
following
think that's bad
self-interest.
until you're that person. They have their own reasons and everything to believe that. I mean,
No, they don't. They probably don't have
definitely
good reason.
it's definitely psychologically it definitely somewhat extends from psychological damage, but you know, if if that person, I mean, how is that more right or wrong than what anyone else? I mean, it's wrong within morality, like social morality, which we do have social moral systems that occur from, you know, humans being social creatures, but that doesn't mean that morality is universal, right?
Bro, what? Wait, are you a
Because
moral nihilist? You
yes,
think,
yes,
oh,
sort of.
fucking hell, bro.
No, no,
I've
listen to me,
debated
listen
these
to me,
types of guys in the past. I just can't get anywhere. I mean, I feel
listen
like,
to me.
wait,
If
clarify. Yeah,
morality
yeah.
comes from the social organism, then what if somebody's antisocial? What if somebody's asocial? Then they don't fit into that morality. Thus, morality is not universal.
Wait, give me an example of this. So what does an antisocial person look like? What does,
Um, Charles Manson.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
would say, well, most
If
people
Charles
think that his
Manson
actions are wrong.
if Charles Manson
It's
thinks the
pretty
way
specific.
that he can help the world is by killing people and starting a race war, then he's not doing that necessarily out of evil. He's doing that because he thinks it's going to help the world, or at least his fucked up perception of the world.
Yeah, but the effects are still wrong. And also from a historical perspective, I don't
How are
think
they
that
wrong?
it
How are they wrong
completely.
or right?
I know, but now we're just going back to what it is. I feel like that's why we didn't really get to a fundamental answer, which is what I'm trying to explore. I mean, I'm asking, so what's good and what's bad in life? I mean, that's the first question that humans ever asked after we were smart enough. We became smart enough to think about it. And what I was saying earlier is that everything that we do is underlined by that specific question. You can never escape it. I mean, for instance, you and I, we're gonna do something tomorrow, presumably. We're probably
Mm-hmm.
not going to just lie in bed. And if we were to just lie in bed and do nothing for the rest of our lives, I think many people would say that that's probably bad. It might not be evil, but it's definitely worse than the alternative. So we're all constantly operating on a notion of good and bad. I mean, you wouldn't want me to hurt people that you love and vice versa. So you can't really get
Yeah,
around this,
well,
even if you say that you're a
we
moral
live.
nihilist in the abstract. So I'm saying, so
No,
let's
well,
say
are you
that
familiar
those,
with Rousseau, Jean-Jacques
yeah. And
Rousseau, The
so are
Social
you gonna say
Construct?
that, yeah, are you gonna say that, what, society, I mean,
I'm
what's
going
good
to
for
say
bad?
that
Yeah.
good behavior leads to social cohesion, and we have good feelings about good behavior because, basically it leads to social cohesion, which leads to collective strength. Like this kind of gets back to um like e pluribus unum, like the
Okay.
idea out of many we are one, right? So if we have a collective society that's all bound together by these notions of morality, then that can help us survive, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that morality is an actual thing instead of a social construct. Like a lot of things are social constructs, even though they graph onto something that's real, right? So shoes are a social construct because guess what? A shoe, it has a function, but it's not literally related to something else. Race is also a social construct. Like people say, Italians are not we're not white, and I, to be honest, I still think that. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Um, those come from mental connections that we make, saying, okay, so this is this thing because it's similar to this thing enough, right? So basically, how do I explain this? Okay, so I have these two guitar picks right here, right? How are these the same thing? They're not. But my brain can more easily process them as two very similar things because that leads to, if my fucking brain needed to compute every fucking atom on this thing, then that would be insanely inefficient and I would probably just fucking go insane. I'm not a supercomputer, right? So I have to determine that these two things serve the same function. They're relatively similar. They are made out of, they're both made out of plastic, right? This one's more soft plastic and it's red. This one's hard plastic and it's black. This one has a grip. This one doesn't. They're a different shape. But at the end of the day, my brain is going to mostly process them as identical because why would it not? Even though they're not identical at all, they're made out of completely different atoms, right? So where am I going with this? Uh,
You're talking about,
so
so
the
morality is a social construct, do you think?
yes, morality is a social construct in the same way that, you know, light bulbs are a social construct. In the same way that race is a social, gender is technically a social construct. Well, actually,
Yeah.
it's less of a social construct than race. It's actually probably the closest thing that we have to something that is not a social
I mean, I
construct.
think it's
Besides,
influenced
like,
by, but it's not determined by biology. It's probably more rooted in biology than race, though. I agree, yeah.
yeah, because it's it's literally a binary, right? There's no in between. You're either born, I
For
mean, there's
sex, I
people with,
mean.
there's intersex
Yeah.
people, but like that's a small minority. And most of those people still fit into one of these for the most part. So there's one or the other, and they're determined by chromosomes. So that's actually one of the things that is least of a social construct. Beds are a social construct. Everything is a fucking social construct, including especially morality, because the morality of like a Muslim civilization is completely different to the morality of a Christian civilization or a pagan civilization or a communist or a fascist or a libertarian civilization, right?
Yeah, but okay. No, but the problem is, so if I was to steel man or provide the strongest possible case for moral objectivism, which I actually do believe in 100%. I mean, I've thought about it deeply. I think it is objective. I'm a moral objectivist. I'm not quite a moral realist though, because I think we need a more sophisticated stance. So I'd call myself a moral meta realist. And I'm not quite a moral Platonist because I think Platonism has some flaws, even though he was actually groping towards the truth in some sense. I just think that he can fully access it. But what I'd say is the response. So from this point of view, from what we believe in basically as moral objectivists, we would say that, okay, so different civilizations may have had different conceptions of morality. What that really means, it doesn't disprove objective morality. It just means that our task is to actually determine which one was more right, which one was better, and probably support that faction by way of weighing their beliefs against an arbitrary